Just being frustrating. Okay. Alright. Oh, yeah, Zoom can fraud. So now I'm gonna make my name. This is the Suhbah Heartbreak event to all of the live stream. Apologies for the live stream earlier, not having sound. I think Chelsea will have sound from now. So, where? It's working. So right now we're doing an activity, so psychologist, Selena Omid, supervised by, Stoli. She's doing an activity with people where they're in groups of like two or three. And now the activity. Yeah.
I'm glad y'all got a chance to talk it out because sometimes just learning from each other can help us. Like, okay, maybe I can try this too. So I'm sure you guys came up with certain things by sharing. Like, how can I come from this activated place to a place where I can be in a calmer state, where I can take action? Okay, so one of the best, or one of the interventions that are the most effective are called self-compassion. Anybody heard of self-compassion by Kristen Neff? Okay, I see maybe a nod or two. But self-compassion basically is, when we're going through tough things, allowing ourselves, giving ourselves some grace, being kind to ourselves. Okay, who thinks that sounds like a bunch of hooey and like what nonsense? Be kind to okay, sure. I was there. When I heard it, I was like, that's not how I grew up, y'all. Yeah. Being kind to myself, whatever that means. But really, the more I looked into it and the more I understood about it, and then when I saw it in Islam, I saw in the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu, I started recognizing that just like Islam establishes, Allah subhanahu there's a reason it's in the Sunnah. Probably because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows many of us are so harsh on ourselves, right? We're supposed to have a balance. We keep looking at the things that we can improve on, take accountability, and at the same time, we want to keep moving, right? And not be harsh on ourselves. The way we treat others is how we should be treating ourselves. We are creations of Allah. So let me tell you what it does, the improvements. Maybe then y'all buy in. What's going on? On screen. How flattering. I'm glad I'm not in there. Okay. So self-compassion. It's been found to increase emotional resilience. It's been found to have better accurate self-concepts than even working on our self-esteem. It's found to have even the people who practice it have better caring relationship behaviors, and they're less reactive, and there's less narcissistic behaviors as well. I think that's pretty awesome. What do y'all think? Okay. So researchers found that participants who displayed more self-compassion, even 9 months later, they actually found that the effect stayed for having better psychological flexibility and well-being. So this is lasting stuff if we keep practicing it. Okay, so what in the world is this stuff, right? Because I've heard many times, like, I've heard about this. How do I practice? I'm just supposed to be like, good girl, Selena. No, there's more to it. Okay, there's 3 components, and those 3 components are being mindful of our feelings, thoughts, and behaviors, but basically don't suppress them, don't ignore them. Okay, look at that one. Okay, number 2, understanding that it's not just, oh God, it's just me. Why me? I'm the only one suffering. No, this is an experience of all humans. We're in the dunya, and in the dunya, all of us are going to taste some suffering, some tests. It's gonna hurt, y'all, but in Jannah, inshallah, right? So, and then the third part, that's the self-kindness. What that looks like is what in the Western perspective, it's talking to yourself like you talk to your friend. So oftentimes when we explore the inner critic of like clients, dude, it's harsh. It's like, I'm so stupid. What's wrong with me? You know, oftentimes that, and I see nods here because I'm sure many of us can relate to, I'm a failure. I can't believe this happened to me, right? But would you ever talk like that to your friend if they came up and they were like, oh man, I'm going through a tough time. Oh my gosh, you're so stupid. You're a complete failure. I hope you know that. Yeah, there's Snickers because we would never do that. What would that do to our relationship? But look at that relationship with us to ourselves, right? Our bodies, who we are, this is an amana, right? Like Allah created us, and yet we talk to ourselves like this. Now, if we take it to what Faizan had said, one of the best ways to be kind to yourselves is to do dua for yourself. Why? Because think about it, y'all. Who's on y'all's dua list? Are they random people, or they're the people you love, right? Only certain people usually make it to the dua list, unless you're like special and you have those books and you like sit down and pray for all those one day. But usually we reserve that for people we genuinely love and connect with. And so that's a self-kindness that we want to do with ourselves. So here's what I want to do in the last. I hope I'm not going over, y'all. Okay, good. I have a few minutes. So Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Let's think about Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The year of sorrow. When you guys first, let's think about the rejections you guys have felt. Okay, and it can be beyond heartbreak through relationships. Perhaps it was through university. You had a dream of going to a certain university or a career, right? Or your boss was going to hire you, or like I said, it could be with family members, or what we're talking about relationships specifically too. Think about the rejection, the hurt you felt, right? And then let's think about the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So him trying to deliver the message to the people he built a reputation. They loved him and they rejected him over and over and over again. They pushed him out of his home. Then he faced the deaths of his supports. How hard that was, of his daughters, of all his kids. Then he mustered up some courage and delivered the message and went to Ta'if. And when he went to Ta'if, the brutality, the humiliation, the hurt, he was literally pelted, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, taunted, right? Think about the taunts that you guys probably have heard regarding the relationships. I'm sure we all hear them sometimes from different people, even people who mean well, right? Like, oh, you're still not married yet. Oh, well, your sister, your brother, have gotten married, or sometimes we do hear really hurtful things, right? Now, this is not, we can't compare this to Prophet ﷺ, but at the same time, this is for us to learn and understand how the Prophet ﷺ coped with this and dealt and managed all of this rejection that he faced, right? So after he was covered with blood, exhausted from running for miles, away from the people who were pelting him and hurting him and throwing rocks at him, right? Rejecting his message, he came with such hopes. He made a dua. And I want to read the dua that he read. To you, my Lord, I complain of my weakness, my lack of support in the humiliation I am made to receive, most compassionate and merciful. What part of self-compassion can y'all relate this to? Is this being mindful of your feelings? Is this the common humanity? I'm not alone in this. Is this the self-kindness? What is it, you guys? Okay, yeah, it could be all of them. Specifically, he's naming his emotions. I'm humiliated. I'm feeling humiliated, right? I complain of my lack of support. And then you are the Lord of the weak, and you are my Lord. You are the Lord of the weak, meaning he thought of everybody else in this impossible situation, right? He's feeling weak. And yet he's thinking of others who probably also feel weak. So he's reminding himself that, okay, this is a part of our human experience. And then, to whom do you leave me? To a distant person who receives me with hostility, or to an enemy you have given power over me? As long as you're not displeased with me, I don't care what I face. I would, however, be much happier with your mercy. I seek refuge in the light of your face, by which all darkness is dispelled, and both this life and the life to come or put in their right course against incurring your wrath or being the subject of your anger. To you I submit until I earn your pleasure. Everything is powerless without your support. So Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam made a dua for himself. He related it back to that this is a part of the human condition, feeling weak. He named his emotions because what could he have done, right? Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, I mean, if we take it back to us, right? I did something wrong. I failed. The Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam didn't say that. He was mindful of his feelings, right? Instead of putting a label on it. I am this, I am that, I didn't do this, I didn't do that. He did not dwell on that, right? And he related it back to the others instead of only me. Why is this happening to me, Yara? Why? I've done everything right. I've, gone forward and spread the message. No, he did not dwell on that either. And then he prayed. Instead of complaining about Taif and how could they be like this? I did everything that I could, right? That's not what he dwelled on. He did those things that are compatible with self-compassion. And of course, self-compassion just kind of tells us, it gives us more insight. It breaks it down what Prophet ﷺ did so that we can kind of, we can also emulate that, inshallah. Okay, so what do we learn from this, right? Oh, and also, he didn't go back and try to convince the people of Taif. Many people are like, oh, maybe if I just do that, right? Like, so for a relationship, let me go back and see, y'all, okay, Delulu is not the Sululu all the time. So sometimes you just have to let go, right? You have to let things be. If it's gone, if it's done, just walk away from it with that dignity intact. And I understand why some people will fall into the, I miss them, that's that dopamine kick, right? It made us feel a certain way. It's special. In fact, one of these anthropologists, I think something Fisher, she studied people who, missed their, whoever they broke up with, and they found the same parts of the brain activated as those with addiction, right? With alcohol and drugs. So they do get withdrawal symptoms. They do get cravings, right? But that means, do we want to be a slave to another person or a creation of Allah? No, we want to take it back. We want to free ourselves from the shackles, and we want to have a healthy attachment with another human being. But first, we need that secure attachment with Allah. Okay, so what we're trying to understand from Prophet ﷺ is, even after he kept trying, he still was striving, right? That was such a big blow, but he didn't stop in his message. Does that mean that, y'all, if you went through a breakup or you went through, your relationship ended or that dream of the relationship ended, that get back in the saddle right then and just push your way through? Not necessarily. It means give yourself some grace, and then you can keep trying, right? And then another thing that we want to kind of remember is that if we ended up hurting somebody, it's important that we connect back with ourselves and make amends with the people that we've hurt. Because it's possible that perhaps we were the ones who ghosted another person, or perhaps we, led somebody on, or perhaps we were the ones who participated in rumors, right? And somebody's reputation was hurt. Or perhaps somebody was trying to be vulnerable, and then we're just like, oh, look at him chatting me up. Look, and things like that can be really hurtful, because we're to be vulnerable and brave. Everybody here, almost everybody raised their hands. So everybody's experienced this hurt. So we have to rectify our character, and we have to make amends. That doesn't mean that if you have, distance from that relationship, you have to go and reconnect again and say sorry. In that way, perhaps we can do tawbah, right? With Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and not repeat it again. But making those amends, and we're able to make those amends when we are kind with ourselves, not when we are harsh with ourselves. Okay, so Jazakallah khair, you guys. If I said anything good and correct, that is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If I made any mistakes or said anything wrong, that is from myself and the shaitan. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept. All right. I had a bubble exercise, like a little tawakkul, but I think we're out of time. So
We actually have until 7:45 because Isha got moved forward, so we have Q&A.
Yeah, we have Q&A, yeah.
Yeah.
And then if we'll have time, we'll do that.
Yeah,
Okay, let's. keep
Inshallah.
going.
Raise hands, anyone have a question? Yeah, Mr. No.
Thank you so much. This is great. Ghosting culture. So like, is this just a thing that, because I've read like the literature on it where it's just a part of the times that we live in. And some people are like, well, with apps and all these like different methods that are now new that weren't around when our parents were around and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We just have to adapt to it and get used to it. So it has to be like almost like a rejection therapy where you're just okay with rejection and okay with ghosting. And so how is that something that is a reality according to psychology? And if you have Islamic also
Mhm.
interpretation of it as well.
Yeah. Why don't you talk it?
So I think there's first off, Jazakallah khair for the question. This idea of ghosting culture. Man, there's no other behind that, right? There's no manners behind that. And I think one of the beauties about our religion is that we're not supposed to have manners when things are easy. We're also supposed to have manners when things are difficult. In fact, that's when our manners are tested. That's when our adab is truly tested. So if it's something that's happened to you, or if it's something that does happen to you in the future, may Allah protect each and every one of you and all of us, inshallah. Understand that this is a reflection of someone else's character. And this may be something to consider, whether you wish to pursue this relationship or they come back or whatever happens. That may be something to consider. Second, if this is something that you're doing, keep in mind, this is also a reflection of your character too. It is easy to speak up when things are going well and to have manners when things are going well. But if things are difficult, and if you want to break off a relationship, there is adab in breaking that off as well. There's so much in terms of the process of getting married, right? Getting married and pursuing someone and courting someone and getting to the point where the marriage happens. You have to have adab in that process, adab with the in-laws and the entire process. So the part that's not talked about is what happens when someone gets divorced and when things break apart. Are you a person who has adab in that process? And again, this isn't something that should be, I won't spend much time on, but this is a moment of extreme difficulty. I see ghosting as one of those things that shows a lack of adab, shows a lack of manners. And if it's something that, if it's a relationship that you don't want to continue, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, that's your prerogative. Part of this process is you understanding more about who you are. And if there's something that you're not okay with and you don't want to continue a relationship, taking a step back and saying, no, I'm not comfortable with this. I don't want to move forward with this. But have the manners to inform the other person in a way that's beautiful, in a way that's nice, in a way that's kind, and let them move on and you move on as well. So I don't know about it being a part of the culture and something that you kind of have to adapt to, but that's one thing that I just wanted to mention about the manners behind it, about the you know, like in Urdu they say bed bhi hoti hai. Anyone heard that? Be-adabi. The lack of adab in this process. May Allah protect us from that. Don't add anything.
We have a live link that I'm just trying to
No,
get
yeah.
up to you.
Usher's
Yeah,
doing the IT stuff
If you're,
over here.
if you're
so.
in the WhatsApp group, it's shared there.
Okay, we
Oh,
can
there's-
turn on the TV.
There's a Q&A for online as well.
Yep.
Alhamdulillah.
Like anonymous.
You know, there was how many of y'all seen WandaVision?
Yeah.
Of course.
Okay. WandaVision, Marvel show WandaVision. You know, there's one quote in there. There's one quote in there that I think is so beautiful,
Oh, yeah.
and I'm sure some of y'all know what I'm talking about.
Grief. something.
Yes, exactly. There's
Oh.
one quote in there where he says, "What is grief except love persevering?"
Yes.
I was like, subhanAllah, subhanAllah. Even when it comes to heartbreak, this applies. Because it's the love that you wish you could have given. It's a love that you wish you could have given, and it's a loss of a dream, like Selena mentioned, like it's a loss of a life that you thought that you were going to have. So it is a lot of love that you wish to give, but keep in mind, Allah is our religion tempers that as well. Like where you're supposed to give love and how you're supposed to give love. It's something from, is your face up there again?
No, it's good now. So that's the QR code. We'll bring it up on that one as well.
You're on the WhatsApp chat, should be.
So you were talking about the ghosting culture, right? So what's the norm? I kind of don't really fully know, right? But from my understanding, it's like, first, people get familiar. And then when the time comes when they're like, oh, I don't think it's a good fit, some people they just disappear. Now, what's internalized, again, I'm just putting this out there, but I want to hear from y'all, is like, okay, I don't know what happened. I must be, not important enough, or there must be something lacking in me. What's going on? And that's what causes the hurt, obviously, because of the response like that. But specifically, what were you talking about?
Honest, for me, like for my question personally, it's more so in the beginning when you're like, because it's all the apps and I hate the apps. And
Yeah.
we have to have the apps.
Okay, tell me about why we have to have the apps.
Because that is where most people are now looking.
For real, everybody's
So
nodding.
and also I think,
Let's shift it.
honest, I have a lot to say.
Yeah.
But because of like the Me Too movement and cancel culture and stuff like that, it's hard for a man to even approach a woman now
Mm,
without feeling just already like a perpetrator.
a perpetrator.
Yes.
So meaning, like, help me understand that.
Harassing, coming
Oh,
off
I
without
see.
adab, etc. But like, I don't know, like my cousins are very conservative, so they don't even believe in like hanging out together. It's just, okay, you saw him, he saw you, and that's that, and then the family meets, and that's and then you can talk, but with supervision. So I'm trying to understand how, like in the American hegemony, like how we're supposed to do this. But more so, it's just like on the apps, honestly, talking, and then it's just after 2 or 3 maybe conversations, it's like just left unread.
Mhm.
But maybe that's just a personal thing.
No, it hurts. Hey, no, it's true. Like anytime something like that would happen, to form that resilience, what Faison said, we can't control what they do or don't do, right? That's, if we could, we'd be like, hello, excuse me, give me an answer, need closure, right? But we can't make that. So, but what we can control is ourselves and our response and our thought process. And so him saying that, okay, that's a reflection on their part, it must be something to do with them rather than us, or even, you know what, maybe we weren't a good match and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has the best of plans. So alhamdulillah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is changing my face towards another direction, even if it's in such a heartbreaking way. The second part is approaching people in person. Ladies, can I hear from y'all? What would be a good way for a brother to approach y'all in person without him being a perpetrator? Like, yeah,
Just do it, just say hi, like,
Yeah.
say salam, don't overthink, it's not that big of a deal, like, just say salam. Salam, and are you looking at me smiling?
Yeah.
well, should they
What do
approach
you think
with,
about this?
should they approach with another
I'm curious.
brother?
I think
Like,
I think
someone
our
else-
experiences
I
are
think-
different.
I think maybe with somebody would be more like, I don't know, I think I would feel a little uncomfortable
Yeah.
with just one guy approaching me. I'd be like, okay, what's going on? Like, I'm just not used to it, but I've had brothers where they just say salam. That's kind manners to me, just saying salam. But I think if you have an intention to like talk to me, maybe make it more welcoming, like maybe there's like a sister or a brother and they have another brother and then it's just kind of like a group. It's group, you know?
Have someone
Yeah.
else ask about.
I've never had like a single brother just approach like that though. That's
so
cool.
the guys I can see y'all wincing a little, tell me what's happening.
We have, I feel like we have the halal gap.
Yeah,
So like the guys over here, sisters over there, you don't interact.
uh-huh.
That's right. Yeah.
That's
And
it.
so, Faison, what are your thoughts? Cause dude, you are way before my time. I've been married 20 years, alhamdulillah, and I was arranged, so I didn't have any of that.
That's fine. We can clearly tell, like there's an understanding here, and there's an understanding here. And there's no understanding. You know, subhanAllah, this reminds me of one of the names of Allah. How Allah is Al-Latif. Does anyone know what that means?
Yes, the subtle.
That's subtle.
It has the perfect plans,
The
right?
subtle. He has the perfect plans and things shift in ways. He does small things, small changes that add up to a large, amazing, beautiful result. Sometimes to the point where you're in the results and you're living the du'as that you made years ago, and you don't realize you're living those du'as. These names of Allah are not just for us to ponder about the nature of Allah, but it's also to incorporate in our characteristics as well.
Yeah.
So perhaps boldness doesn't work, and perhaps subtlety is needed, but perhaps understanding is needed that there's subtlety coming from that side as well. And even if someone is bold, that doesn't reflect bad on their character, because what are they approaching you for? They're approaching you for something halal, to do something in a proper way. And for the men, sometimes subtlety is needed. There's a level of tact that's needed as well. And I'm not saying that it's not, these things are easy to say and preach from over here, but they're very hard to do.
Yeah.
Very, very hard to do. And I understand that. It's very difficult. But above all of this, everything that we're saying, I want you to know that Allah is Al-Latif. And sometimes connections are made in ways that you never thought were going to happen. Some doors that you have closed in your mind, for example, arranged marriage, that might be something that's closed off in your mind. But the most beautiful relationships sometimes come through arranged marriages. And some door that you may have closed in your mind, Allah wants you to walk through that door. So be mindful of the way in that Allah is Al-Latif, and also be subtle in the way that you are Al-Latif as well, and notice those subtleties as well. You know, one of the things that we look at from the seerah is that they kind of picked up on hints. They picked up on hints from the sister side and from the brother side. They would understand that there's something else going on. And I think that level of thought is needed as well. If there's too much subtlety as well, if there's too much vagueness, it's okay to be forward and ask. It's okay to be forward and ask on both ends. On both ends. By the way, if a sister is interested in a guy, y'all can take the first step too.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing wrong with that. Yes.
In the previous event, it was called Everlasting Love, and one of the things she said was, Khadija radiallahu anha, she actually had someone sent over to the Prophet, peace and blessings upon him, and basically asked for him.
Yeah.
And I think that's like a very great and halal approach. And I even had a friend in the who had her now husband, now they have a child, mashallah. He had a friend like message for him to her, like as the, I guess, like not the gatekeeper, but in between. And so it was protecting his image and her image.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like very halal. And she was confused, like, why did he approach me myself? Like, he has like shame and manners. Like, he's not trying to expose himself, but also to you in any bad way. And I said, go for it. Like, there's a person in between, there's a, what's it called? A wali kind of in a way. And mediator. And from that approach, I was like, this is a good man that's trying to talk to you, and he's trying to do it the halal way, he's taking the right step. And I feel like, personally for me, I think that's a great approach, where you both have like one in between, but also you're protected, your images are protected, there's no shame in that. So if she rejects him, it's okay, he's protected, or if she does, either way, it's like halal. So I think that's a great approach, rather than, for me personally, like, than the bold approach.
Beautiful. Yeah. Yes.
I'm from Boston, Chair.
That's
I
fine.
think, something I've noticed is that on the women's side, there's a lot of, why can't the guy just ask or just approach us directly? But I think something I've realized over time is that on the men's side, they are also afraid of that rejection and that constant rejection of like, man, if I ask or if I just talk to this girl, they also fear that rejection as well. And I think women appreciate the boldness, but we don't realize that it's a lot on the guys to just come to a girl and just put himself out there. Because you're right, like, girls can do that, but society says the guy should, society says the guy should do it all. I mean, I think that's where some of that miscommunication comes as well. So I don't know if you guys have thoughts on that, but
I want to talk about the psychology behind this. Men, we are told to be strong, right? Every single message that we get is be strong. When we go and ask a girl for their hand, there's strength in asking, but you're also putting yourself in a vulnerable position. An incredibly vulnerable position, because you give all the power to the person that you're asking. She says yes, all right, next step. If she says no, we get hurt. The ego hits. Because as bad as this is, society has placed a value on that as well. Meaning men have value if you can be with someone, if you can have someone accept you, and if you can have astaghfirullah, outside of the Muslim society, it's like how many women you've been with, right? If someone is a manly man, if someone is seen as a manly man, it's that they can attract women. And that creeps into our society as well. It creeps into the Muslim image too. So you're putting as a man, you're putting yourself in a vulnerable position. And I think understanding that when a man puts himself in a vulnerable position, there is a level of mindfulness of that and adab in the rejection as well. If things go well, alhamdulillah, right? It's good on both sides. But if there's an adab in the rejection, then that can actually ease a lot of the pain from both sides. Because that goes the other way too. When women ask for men, as rarely as that happens, you're also putting yourself in a vulnerable position. But I think this is a very general difference. When women face rejection, sometimes they have more people that they can talk to about, that they can discuss with, that they can kind of lean on. A guy's not going to tell his best friend that he just got rejected. So he faces it alone. And I think being mindful of that is something that will help in the process.
I have a question. You were talking about how not to be harsh on yourself. How do you distinguish between being harsh on yourself and just being too easy on yourself and not holding yourself accountable and then not pushing yourself to grow and I don't know, I'm better to draw the line.
Yeah, so oftentimes oftentimes I talk about like dirty guilt and clean guilt with clients. Okay, so, and what I mean by that is oftentimes we are trying to hold ourselves accountable for things that we're not responsible for, right? Like we had no control over, we're not responsible for, we didn't actually do anything, but we feel like we should. I feel really terrible and horrible about something. So they feel guilty. So what can I'm trying to think of an example. So you're trying to make a family member happy, right? But they're emotional, they're upset, or they're reactive, and you've tried everything you could, but you're like, I should be able to make this person happy. I need to do anything and everything to make this person happy, right? And you're going above and beyond, you're slowly growing resentment in your heart that you're feeling guilty. Well, what that person being angry is probably going to stay angry for a while or upset or reactive, right? And there's only so much you can do. You can talk to them, you can perhaps, like educate them, or you can model for them, but you can't make them do something. That is dirty guilt. You're not responsible. You're not accountable for that. What you are accountable for are the things that you are in control of. So if we somehow accidentally, participated in a rumor, or even purposely sometimes because our ego was hurt, and then we're feeling icky and gross and terrible, right? We need to take action. That's not the time for self-compassion, but correction. If you're still kind with yourself, you'll be able to mobilize yourself towards making amends. Because let me give you an example. Oh my gosh, I'm so terrible. I'm so horrible. What's wrong with me? I'm a failure, right? And suddenly it's so overwhelming. It's so gross. You have all these things going on in your body, right? Like you're feeling nauseous and gross, and you're just like, I want to avoid this as much as possible because this was so much. Many people go into freeze mode and they just want to ignore. However, if you're like, oh, I messed up. I'm a human, I messed up. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who forgives, and sometimes people get elevated through doing good. Other times, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made a path that people are elevated through tawbah and repairing, and they're elevated, right? So reminding ourselves that way actually mobilizes us into taking action. So, self-compassion can actually still help with, because that's what people say. They're like, oh, shoot, I'm gonna be so nice to myself and I'm gonna end up being like completely forget about it. I'm just not gonna care about anyone else. No, we are keeping our values in mind, Islamic values. We want to rectify, we want to grow, we want to get better as Muslims, right? Tell me if there's other questions
Yeah,
regarding that.
That was great, thank you.
Yeah.
We have time for one more.
Okay.
Yeah, anonymous question.
I don't know how to check that.
Okay, so, we do have anonymous questions on the live ask. I'll just ask them.
Sure.
It's not for me, all right, it's from the live ask.
Sure.
Because look at the screen, it's like completely blank.
Okay, so. No closure after several years. What should I do?
Oh, man. So, I want to tell y'all something that may hurt. Sometimes you won't get closure. And there will be some people in this world that don't get married. This is the reality of this world. There'll be some that die young, some that have heartbreak after heartbreak after heartbreak, and this is a part of this life. The only closure that you will get is if you're connecting this pain back to Allah. Because Allah is the one that can heal. Allah is Al-Jabbar. Allah is the one that can take away that pain. I think a lot of times when we consider change, whether it's change in our heart getting better, our heart healing, we put trust in our capacity to change or the capacity of someone else to change us or to change someone else. But there's limits to that. It's a limit. It's a limited interaction because we inherently are limited. But if we put our trust in Allah's capacity to change us or Allah's capacity for someone else to change, then it's a trust in the one who has no imperfections. It's a trust in the one who has limitless capacity for change. When we look for closure, we're looking for a response from someone else. We're looking for some kind of way to wrap everything up. Sometimes you won't get that. And the only way you can find peace in your heart is if you relate it back to Allah and understand that Allah does things for a reason. And perhaps this pain that you consistently feel, the reason behind that is so that you can turn back to Allah and consistently make dua to Allah. So there will be some that just unfortunately won't get closure. And that's a reality of this life. I hate to be the bearer of bad news if you didn't know that. But that is a reality of this life.
I wanted to actually add to that because it's going to sound like a shameless plug, but that's not my intention. But also, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made us interdependent. We're interdependent creatures, right? Beings. So we're interdependent beings. And oftentimes seeking that therapy can really be helpful. Right? So, because what we do is essentially we hold up a mirror. Have y'all ever gone through that where you've been recorded, your voice has been recorded, and you're like, hold up, I sound like that? Or like, whoa, I look like that? Right? Like, no, I sounded or look like that. So it could be either way, but that mirror, when it's held up and you're able to see it from a fresh pair of eyes and from it can really be eye-opening and it can help you to move in a direction where you are able to not get the closure in the way you're thinking. Like, I'm going to get that apology from him or her, and she's going to come begging back for me, or, like we have these imaginary scenarios. Maybe not in that way, but it's in an empowering way where there is acceptance, healthy acceptance, and then a connection, like a secure attachment to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and a real assessment of who you are, where you need to grow, and the awesome things about you that Allah has endowed you with. Because oftentimes that's imbalanced, So yeah, seek out that help or that trusted person who has earned, you feel safe around, can hold. Not the person where you're like, the second I tell this person, it's gonna be out in the community and all over. No, be careful with that. You want to share with that person who's going to help you, lead you back towards not the, oh, she was a narcissist. No, to help your ego or boost your ego. No, you want somebody who can tell it to you for real. Okay, that was my little bit, but.
So Iqama just happened at Masjid Al Farouk. We'll break inshallah, and then Fizam has to go. But inshallah, you can follow his IG simply Sakoon, and it has.
I'm gonna also say that if y'all want, I think we're all in the WhatsApp chat, right? Or the WhatsApp group. I like the way Sheikh Amar does it at +1. If there are extra questions there and we're not available now, we can also send voice notes just to answer the questions.
Yeah.
There, inshallah.
Great.
So that's something that I wanna put out there as well, inshallah.
We'll post an announcement group about like a community chat for Suhbah young professionals
I don't know,
inshallah.
that was already. If that's not there, then whatever organizers have in mind.
We have one announcement and one,
Oh, yeah, super young professionals.
oh, so that's open for anyone to comment.
But we can.
We can open it and then Soma Institute will be the announcement place,
Yeah,
yeah.
we can open it.
Yeah.
Or, we can keep the QR code open. If you guys have more questions, send it over. Anonymously, and we can just like put everything together and post it.
Inshallah.
Sounds good, inshallah.
So inshallah, after Isha, are we continuing the Q and A or?
Oh, right,
Okay.
Faison's not gonna be
Yeah.
here. What time would that be?
So like, it's right now, Isha is happening,
Yeah.
and then at 8 o'clock, we'll finish and then quickly come here, and then we could do maybe 10-15 minutes of more Q and A and finish it, or we could just start game night early.
Yeah, or we can do a quick spectrum and have discussion.
Those were excellent questions in the spectrum. Who came up with those?
Combined effort.
So good. So good. Y'all should totally ask those. Those are really good.
Yeah, so we will do the spectrum.
Yeah, it's cute.
Huh? Yeah, I don't wanna do questions and answers with Faison, but, and also, what's that group?
Yeah,
You just added me on there. We can do I'm happy to do the exercise with you guys.
Okay, awesome, sounds good, inshallah. So we're reconvening after Isha back over here, and we'll do a spectrum discussion activity where everyone gets a chance to interact.
Yeah.
And unlike very load, I wouldn't say loaded, but like very interesting questions, inshallah.
Yeah. It's like.
You know, to discuss, like meaning it's very intellectually stimulating, that's what I'm saying. Please go back.
So good. Oh, she's really good. You know that. Okay. I said, you know me, so you must have heard my freak out. It's like. Are y'all on doctors out? Do you know they're gonna get looked at? It's just, and I'm free. What's perfect? We are witness. Take that. I'm gonna have there and show. I've been wondering for a and yeah. And then they clicked on it and didn't move. I'm going to watch it out. The price out. Yeah, like. They're trying to. It's to that. It's something like. Well, it seems like her. Right. Like, it's totally. Well, first, what you found. Yeah, I extra this. It's not, I don't think I stop them on this. Sorry. Actually. I know. Yeah. Oh, my heart. That's all. Oh, well, Yeah, I just want to hear the that. But all of us to get things so different. But that's how we might buy. Yeah, to do anyway. When I take that, sometimes I feel like, still like for me, I think it's what I'm nice. It's a lot better, but and start to cut out every ration. The time is not a big it's repeat. I feel the work. Then I'm going to go with me and I'm I'll tell you. But I feel like I don't think around the garden and can't sound. Learning, yeah. So I don't talk about it. I don't like how we are really about that and you got it all to them. Yeah, and it was all negative later. First, yeah. Not later. We're no longer because I can't get it. I'm sorry. It's like never went. I'm like I never met. I'm over here. It's right. It's right here. I know that. Like, you got to there. It's almost trying to put it on it's not crazy. It's like now we don't even know what I read. People get well okay. We're seeing there like it's like I put here give me this right. So it's about to understand thing that is hard to talk. Serious and it comes my team. Person is like no person lines together here and singing. Okay. Oxford, just saying that yes, they have this. I'm going to get it. I'm it's like very much. So it's very trying to be. Yes, no. It's not going to work anyway. My dad it's not right. You can't do it. Before the race, similar. Yeah. And I can't feel like very proud. Yeah, it's concern. That's my house for them. I imagine the agile has not. That's I'm not the train sleep. That's right. I got you're not sick. Very good. I yeah, I'm not hearing. Like, to feel positive. Like, it's awesome. Somebody super damn like it's make them turn all the way back to the this was one of the things, judge me or like spread the word and Instagram. So it's so hard, like, yeah, there's certain yourself. Oh no, I straight up like this to me stand trauma on the papers. But I feel like makes me I feel like yeah, you feel like you're asking you never trying. So I think the same has very good. So yeah, because I haven't tried in a really long time in this like somewhat of a reminder. Like you're speaking of the apps. We're like you wish you like all the apps. I understand them. Right. That's it's good. Some guys are so desperate. These ones are mentioned right away. Why are they on the camera? Like these boundaries, we have to make sure
like when I go to emotions, but I use the steps. I'm very straightforward with my attention case. I'm good at that. Like just that's we're not if you don't want to we're not gonna spend we're not engaged. So and then it's I'm still talking to a few more people, just so you know. But it's like you know the most crazy sending me whatever that is. Yeah. So if somebody has issues, they're gonna look at their serious because if they would understand why, they think that it's the same time I tell them that if I'm talking to somebody, I'm not gonna drag it if I feel like it's not. And then they, you know, but like how maybe sure like it's property and you know that's for their but like that's just I'm doing my chat. Then just be on camera and be this like where's I mean, so they talk is that involves quick first way. Yeah, right with your. So for that, some you need to like be to that like it's like that. What you're trying to like so they even. And I try to go. It's like you know, person. That see you know, extra light as a man or that just see your life and the guy I'm not really like well let's say which started like you have to be it's not I something like hey I'm not very that's why it's fun right third Friday thing is but it's the my community so it's on boss so that's such I know you know I'm if somebody, yeah, I feel like you need on us.
I feel like I've definitely made mistakes in my past. I remember speaking like let me grow and change and like all that space. It's be like yeah, that's a good that I know so much. You're like, how do I trust it? Like, the right intention, really just take that space that you can. This person has it's not very top down. We are kind of where it's how the others look at it. So yes, the whole motivation of kids. I see it that was really trust out her. It's very actually was right more. Like our yes, yeah, I agree with those. Sorry. Like growing up with all of their but I never for it like way. Not I mean I do what I got the bottom what so I know that's all it was for so we were all standard I was I'm not very I don't even think about it we're trying to what are you doing there things sick you became like I don't want you can tell me or we want to you hold over together for your not using them you love something to yeah see and look for that and you feel like you're sorry I'm going for your downfall you know and like you like to recognize that I'll just for days I don't know I start to like well, that's weird. That's and I think that right now we saw that. I always want to serve us like right. Like I never want to think about this person. It's like that. Like right. You're saying I thought check out like just like that. Just tell me my shit. I thought good and let's only start to and your house. It's nice. All right. Let's not think I must it's all my only get it's like stuff my I forget it was clear about it I don't get sorry. Yeah, singer in my question for the right thing, but it's no, it's too much strength, but it must have see they are and they're not making and you understand like I'm going to the minute and maybe slow. A way to be getting right you know like pretty sure okay and then they would be honest and it's hard for it so like absolutely well I was used with I don't even think
Like, I can, except like. The crisis. Okay, did it. Okay. Like, is there any ever a bit? Yeah. We're using. But yeah, that's probably, that's what we had to look there, and any that things was so like hot woman and I love her. And I got her a guy for oh yeah, absolutely. Yes, he speak for that. This is never. And it's a that's my she says things like he's saying for it's very do you feel nice for the next yes. Like that barrier breaks down and
How to find like contentment and like
Versus
person that.
the guy fish that way,
So
but
then, like it's constantly like.
it's there, it's there, you know, just.
It's
like,
that's like.
No, I like that.
I don't think she.
I think that she was right. I know, I'm just like, that's why it's so much easier to be single, but you know, you do it's really, but you're like, so now there, that was a true, sorry.
Yeah, but not saying you have to pay if we get out of like more. That's what I mean, nothing's free, but I don't like yeah, I can't. You know, so I was never bringing that. I don't care. Are you also? Much not paying yet, I'm like. I'm like, I didn't even make it, you know. Well, it's the market, it's the market, it's the market. Very low. Right.
You know, it's either you just start learning right away and think, but it's more, like, you know, not, and it's tough to take, but it's really tough to, but not.
Yeah.
That's the main core, I'm like, yeah, I really have to do it, and it's very hard to by having to go back to these.
Yeah, it's like so high, so you got just, they're like, hey, beautiful, like, you know, long power here, I was meeting, it's like, yeah, like, it's, don't say that.
I had to say that to me to be great.
I haven't been,
Yeah,
I
like,
can answer, but they all so long.
no, this is like, they're not.
Like, talk about asking them to say, you know, they should not, like, I'm gonna say, like, so they, they really do that, the guy was like, they say they do more, I know why. Or like, oh, I know, when I talk about, well, do you have yeah.
But yeah, I think that's like.
But even like,
Yeah, it's like.
they even like smaller things that he's like,
Yeah.
okay, so when I start talking to somebody, they sit down, they're like, you know, they're like, how do you chat? They should just.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Please text me. Don't ever talk to online. Like anything that's fishing. Kind of fudge like a difficult time. If like somebody was struggling with that. Right?
Yeah. I'm just
No, they're coming.
Somebody.
Inshallah will be beginning again in 5 minutes.
Even if they don't watch porn, they would just, yeah, and then like talking, listening.
I see none of that, like, song,
Inshallah, like, you sure. But if I connected,
that's, I mean, not. Exactly.
That was a long time ago, but
I just. They might help connect to them. They're like, what's that? Why, but I come back to me, it's like, because again, we have to give the level of guys, out, it's beyond. No, they have, and if you feel like, you know, very honest.
So damn, shit, that all your people, you would, yeah, very direct and go back, like, absolutely, and I highlight it, oh.
and I actually am like, I respect them for that thing else, and like, you're a man for doing that. You got to yeah. And don't worry about it, don't get that power in the kid, and don't get the power. And I think what it here, we're counting the time that I've treated my change. Never needs practice. I've never, I mean,
Because I get Harrison, they want
like what that came from, like those stuff in your baby when you're trying to open up their eye, you're living in a TV left.
So yes,
I've been used. I've been seeking I am selling the floor too.
and car. Like the girls, the ring. That's cool, so like.
$2,000.
And then that's.
600.
Like this, my hair, I need.
I already have some base. It's like to make you.
You know, yeah.
I am going to be able to.
It's respect.
I could be like.
If they really respect.
Maybe like 2 years.
It's right, like, on you, like.
Yeah, like a silly investment.
Two-way street.
Should be made.
That's what it should be.
Yeah, so we held up at once, it's the same thing that like.
Yeah. And also.
Yeah.
That's, he was like, everyone.
That was North Side of the line. I think that's also how it might be too.
How did it?
I mean,
That's the first thing. You know, it's a movie. Kind of emotional, like a thought, why did you be here? I was right. It shows that.
well, we only went in person when we went to that escape room. Remember?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I saw the beats. For the glass.
Do you still play with Gene?
You got this.
And up. He got married. At that point, it was okay.
Right.
He should tour.
Exactly.
You guarantee whatever.
These guys are moms and.
This is how.
That's right. Why would you do that? And they never knew that it used to things like having problems.
Yeah. That's it. That's it. What is breaking down? I like saying to Five minutes. So.
So like. It's like. Train mode. Yeah, right. Please, I think it's all exotic.
Oh, shoot.
That's where they're in, so good, really. So, you have the pressure, right?
Yeah,
1, 2, 3, 4.
you.
First, if there's time, we'll do